You know, I had a thought the other day. We're eventually going to reach a point where there's going to be no new Pokemon to get released in Pokemon Go. And when we eventually reach that point, what is Niantic going to do? That's what I want to explore in this video. How's it going, everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. I hope you're having a good day, and welcome to today's Pokemon Go video. Alright, so today's going to be a bit of a raw discussion video, and it's been a while since I've done something like this. So today I wanted to talk about the idea of Pokemon Go catching up to the mainstream games. Believe it or not, this day is going to come one day. There's going to be no more new Pokemon to debut in Pokemon Go, and all of the Pokemon that we could catch are going to be Pokemon that have already been released. When that day eventually comes, Niantic needs to get very creative, because one of the things that has been kind of the lifeblood of Pokemon Go is the release of new Pokemon. That has really driven a lot of players to continue playing this game. Sure, I understand that that's not always going to be the case, considering that Gamefreak is continuing to develop new Pokemon games, which means there's going to be new generations. But yeah, there will be a point where we're going to be waiting for those new generations to get dropped in order to get new Pokemon into Pokemon Go. So what is Niantic going to do? Like, what are some of the possibilities? I think there are a couple of great ideas that I really hope they end up exploring. There are three avenues that Niantic could take. The first avenue is pretty obvious. They just do not release anything new, and everything in the game is rotated. That is probably what Niantic is going to end up doing. Like, they're just going to have all the Pokemon get rotated throughout every season, every event, and that is basically what they've been doing now. Aside from drip feeding us new Pokemon, basically one per event, they're probably just going to have their current roster of Pokemon and just have them available at certain times. I mean, if we ever do reach a point where we are caught up with the mainstream games, there's going to be over 1,000 different species of Pokemon, and it's going to be really difficult to catch every single one of them. And Niantic could time gate it by having certain Pokemon only appear at certain times of the year. That is something that I could see them doing to keep the game going and to keep the longevity of the game intact. But that, of course, sounds very boring. What is another avenue that Niantic could take? Well, in my opinion, I think this would be really creative. They could have different variants of legendary and mythical Pokemon that they could release into Pokemon Go as new Pokemon. Now, I already know what you're thinking. This seems like a very preposterous idea, but this is something that Niantic has already done. There is a Pokemon called Armored Mewtwo, and a lot of players treat it as something completely separate from regular Mewtwo, and rightfully so. They have very different stats and a varying moveset, so a lot of people see them as two completely separate Pokemon, even though they're both Mewtwo. And this is what I'm suggesting they do for all the different legendaries and mythicals that already exist in Pokemon Go. I know that Armored Mewtwo was released as part of a cross-promotion with a Pokemon movie, but I think it would be really cool if they were to do something where every single legendary would have an armored version, and it would be a completely different Pokemon with different stats and different moves, and it's something that you can collect as a new Pokemon. That is something I would like to see, and frankly, if Niantic were to pull the trigger on that, they would actually get a lot of players buzzing about Pokemon Go. Like way back in the day when they released Pokemon Stadium, they had Shadow Lugia debut, and that was a Pokemon that had its own color variants, and it had its own strengths and weaknesses, and a lot of players were really excited about that. And it was a huge missed opportunity when they released Shadow Legendaries into Pokemon Go, because had they made Shadow Legendaries as unique as Shadow Lugia was to the Pokemon franchise when that Pokemon came out, it would have been a new way for them to keep Pokemon Go fresh. And yeah, they did kind of do this at one point with Apex Shadow Lugia and Apex Shadow Ho-Oh. They need to do more stuff like that, is basically my point. I think that would be a great way for them to keep Pokemon Go fresh and maintain the longevity of the game. So now this leads me to the third avenue, and I really hope they consider doing this. And this is going to be more on the Pokémon Company rather than Niantic themselves, but I would love the idea of them introducing brand new Pokemon through Pokemon Go. And again, I'm basing this on something that had already happened in the past. When they released Meltan, that was actually a brand new Pokemon that they designed specifically to make a debut in Pokemon Go, and that is exactly how it worked. It was mind-blowing when that Pokemon was first released. It was something that was introduced through Pokemon GO, and it made you feel special for being a Pokemon GO player. And I truly feel like they could recreate that experience by introducing a bunch of Pokemon through Pokemon GO. Like, I love the idea of every 3 months, the Pokemon Company creates a Pokemon that gets released through Pokemon GO, and it's something that will be a part of a special event, like let's say a City Safari or Pokemon Go Fest or Go Tour, and it's a Pokemon that is going to make its debut in Pokemon Go first. I think that would be phenomenal, and if I was Niantic, I'd be lobbying for that every single day. If they have a direct line of communication with the Pokemon Company, that is something I would suggest all the time, because that would be not only really good for Pokemon Go, but in my opinion, good for the Pokemon franchise as a whole. Seriously, Meltan along with Melmetal made big splashes in Pokemon Go when they first released, and I really do think that it would be beneficial for both Niantic as well as the Pokemon Company if they continued to release new Pokemon in a similar fashion. I really do not understand why they do not do this for every single mainstream game that comes out. Just imagine, if they release a new mainstream game or a remake of an old mainstream game, then they should also include a special new Pokemon that you could only get in Pokemon Go, but you could transfer it over to that new game. That's some perfect cross-promotion, and I'm very surprised that Niantic and the Pokemon Company have not tapped into something like that. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool things that Pokemon Go can do if they were to eventually run out of new Pokemon, and I really do think that when we eventually reach that point, there's going to be a lot of exciting things that could potentially happen in Pokemon Go, or there could be a lot of disappointing things as well. But yeah, in any case, that's going to be it for this video. Now, I would love to know your thoughts regarding everything that I talked about down below. Is there a particular thing you would like to see if we eventually catch up to the mainstream games, or do you think it's going to be one of these 3 avenues? Let me know those thoughts, and let's have a great discussion. And thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. If you ended up enjoying it and found it to be insightful, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. Now I want to give a quick shout out to all the patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, go and check out the links in the description below. And if you want to support my channel without spending any money, you could always do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula, and I'm on the platforms that you see on your screen. Alright, and that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.